be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. You may be seated. I will now ask the Secretary to read the order.
Debate on vote number 19, Defense and Military Veterans.
I will now invite the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Honorable Ngakula, to lead the debate. Just a reminder, as she walks to the podium, those speaking from this side will speak from this podium, and those from this side will speak from that podium. Thank you. Over to you, Honorable Minister. No.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Deputy Minister Kebi Mapatsue, fellow cabinet colleagues, co-chairpersons and members of the committees of Parliament, our Military Command Council, the Defence Force Secretariat Council, the Executive Management of the Military Veterans, members of this extended session, members of the AMSCO Board, and members of the Defence Force Service Commission and the Defence Industry. Honourable members, this budget is dedicated to the memory of Dr. Ruth Mumpati, commonly known as Meruth, who was one of our greatest stalwarts and military veterans who played a pivotal role in our illustrious and heroic journey to freedom and democracy. She died having received many accolades in honor of her immense contribution to the struggle. On the 5th of May, 2015, we lost one of our senior commanders, Lieutenant General Bongani Mbata. He was appointed as the Chief of Logistics in April 2014 and managed this portfolio with distinction. In the same week, we lost a member of the AMSCO Board, Mr. Fantas Mobo. May their soul rest in peace. Honorable members, as a country, we recognize that growing instability in other regions of the continent impact negatively on the economy and security of our own country. Migration patterns have become one of the world's major challenges, as witnessed during the recent attacks on foreign nationals. Recently, the continent witnessed various political and governance issues that threaten to generate insecurity and escalate conflict. A low-level civil war in the Central African Republic continues to inflict untold suffering on the population. The recent rescue in that country of 300 soldiers was a painful reminder of the continued committal of this war crime in our continent. Although progress has been made in the Democratic Republic of Congo, MONUSCO, of which we are part, is still required to stabilize the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. We watch with concern current developments in Burundi, where there was an attempted military coup, and it is for this reason that initiatives are underway by East and Central African leaders to find a peaceful solution of this crisis. In West Africa, Nigeria and other countries are fighting religious extremism and acts of terror which threaten to dismember those countries and establish Islamic caliphate. The Horn of Africa and the East Africa community is faced with similar security challenges. The effects of the so-called Arab Spring are still felt in the Sahel and North African regions. We cannot ignore the real risk of the spillover and expansion of conflicts in the region southwards. Honorable members, nearer home, maritime crime and piracy in SADC waters has necessitated maritime patrol on our east coast, whilst we remain mindful of similar challenges in the west coast. Economic underdevelopment and the resultant chronic poverty, hunger, and disease still threaten our continent. These social and economic ills combine to be major drivers of instability and conflict. The recent interception by our intelligence services of South Africans recruited by ISIS served as a reminder that we are not immune to international terrorism, and should therefore remain vigilant all the time. Chairperson, the challenges of organizing and capacitating our defense force are first and foremost informed by this analysis of our geopolitical and security situation. While these situations are not always static, South Africa also has a responsibility to inform itself correctly about what the real drivers of insecurity are and whether those may require other intervention other than military effort. Our defense force has a critical role to play as we, together with our regional and other partners, seek to secure peace and stability, without which economic development is not possible. The defense force is too valuable a national asset to be a subject of partisan political bickering, and it is therefore important for us to seek a national consensus on our defense policy, as was urged by the Defense Review of 1998. This is the attitude and spirit that must guide us as patriots in our mission to build a highly professional and disciplined defense force, sufficiently resilient and resourced to protect both our country and our constitutional democracy. Honorable members, you will recall that the Defense Review 2014 was approved by Cabinet on the 19th of March 2014 and tabled in Parliament on the 3rd of July last year for approval. The policy document was adopted by the Joint Standing Committee on Defense on the 30th of April 2015 and has been waiting debate and approval by Parliament, a delay which has been costing us immensely as a defense force. It is helpful to remind ourselves of the directive by Cabinet when it approved the Defense Review in 2014, and that, I quote, "The Minister of Defense and Military Veterans ensures that the military strategy, force structure, force design, acquisition plans, and funding trajectory are translated into a long-term defense development program, which is aligned and integrated to government's planning cycle." I said in my last budget vote that during 2014-19 to 19 medium-term strategic framework, the DoD will focus on the implementation of milestone 1 of the Defense Review that is aimed at arresting the decline of the SANDF. The delay in the approval by Parliament of the Defense Review 2014 means that the financial year 2015-16 will be devoted to planning and implementation during the financial year 2016-17 and beyond. The DoD has, however, firmly put structures and processes in place to reach a resourced milestone 1 at the end of the current 2014 to 2019 MTSF. A defense review overarching implementation framework aligned with the national planning, budgeting, and reporting cycle has been approved. An oversight body, the Defense Review Implementation Project Team, consisting of both the Defense Secretariat and Military Command, was established to ensure departmental integration during the planning and implementation. 2 permanent planning streams, one on policy matters led by the Defense Secretariat and the other on force development planning led by the Military Command, will drive the planning and implementation process of the Defense Review. The Defense Secretariat planning team will institutionalize the new defense direction by developing the following: 1, a funding model to enable the resourced implementation of the Defense Review 2014, a defense accountability concept to ensure civil control of defense without compromising the command and control of the SANDF, 3, a delegation regime supportive of military command and control, 4, a system to expedite defense capital acquisition, and lastly, a defense industry and technology strategy. Honorable members, the Military Command Planning Team has begun work that seeks to incorporate the new defense policy in a military strategic direction framework. The work includes: 1, the development of a new military strategy that will spell out how military resources will be utilized and to achieve the policy objectives of the Defense Review 2014. 2, the development of an appropriate force design and force structure to provide a clear account of capabilities required to achieve policy objectives. 3, a development of a plan to systematically restructure the SANDF throughout the MTSF period and may be allowed by the current resource baseline, with particular emphasis on the command and staff system and the establishment of combat formations. 4, a plan to right-size the SANDF's personnel component. 5, the renewal of the education, training, and development system of the SANDF. At this occasion last year, I informed this august House that the strategic intent of my ministry from 2014 to 19 would be to build into the planning, budgeting, and reporting cycle of government, and accordingly aligned to support the National Development Plan, the New Growth Path, and the Industrial Action Plan. In the light of the new defense policy direction, ministerial priorities have been incorporated into the DoD's 2015 planning instruments to ensure alignment. These priorities are: 1, strategic leadership and succession planning for the defense program; 2, development of a DoD funding model as a basis to negotiate the adequate resourcing of the defense force; 3, the renewal of defense personnel to meet future obligations; 4, renewal of the defense organization to achieve greater effectiveness and efficiencies; 5, review of defense acquisition in line with the defense review's 4 milestones; 6, the development of a defense industry strategy, technology, and innovation plans, as well as the integration of the defense industry into mainstream industrial policy. Over the MTEF period, a force development plan will be developed concurrently with the arrest of the decline of the SANDF milestone 1. The force development plan will have a long-term trajectory to rebalance and capacitate the defense force to effectively and efficiently execute its constitutional mandate. The implementation of all 4 milestones must, in the end, produce an agile, balanced, and technologically advanced defense force, able to meet its current commitments and future obligations. The defense force will be sufficiently equipped and skilled to successfully execute operations across the full spectrum of conflict. It must have the capacity to defend and safeguard the sovereignty of the Republic of South Africa, keep and enforce peace beyond our borders, and have an offensive capability to deter potential aggressors. I'm happy to report that during the year under review, much progress has been made in many areas of our work, such as the development of a sensor strategy and plan, the ongoing disposal of redundant equipment, the establishment of a joint operations center at the DoD Works Formation, and the completion of the military discipline bill, which is currently with the state law advisors. Furthermore, the ongoing execution of Operation Caribbean, directed at the maintenance and repair of our military equipment, especially the operational vehicle, with the assistance of technical personnel from the Cuban Defense Force, continues with success. Honorable members, it is important for me to point out that in the implementation of Milestone 1, there are a number of activities we can embark upon within the existing resource allocation. These include the development of a new defense accountability model, the development of a military strategy aligned with the Defense Review 2014, inclusive of a force design, force structure, and the development of a DoD funding model to enable engagements with National Treasury to source funding for the implementation of the Defense Review. A critical finding of the Defense Review is the mismatch between resources allocated to the Defense Force and its commitments at home and on the African continent. It is indeed this misalignment that is mainly responsible for the decline we have to arrest and reverse. This was exacerbated by the resources we had to spend to address the socio-economic priorities of our people in this country. We can, however, no longer afford to neglect the needs of the Defense Force. Despite this constraint, the SANDF continues to execute tasks assigned to it with dedication and high levels of professionalism. A total of 2213 members are currently deployed in the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Darfur region of Sudan as part of the United Nations and African Union mandated missions. However, the United Nations must take responsibility for providing all necessary support to our forces, including intervening when challenges arise, particularly in the Darfur region, where we have constraints related to the delivery of logistic sustainments for our soldiers. As honorable members are aware, in the DRC, the SANDF is deployed as part of MONUSCO, with elements forming the Force Intervention Brigade together with the Defense Forces of Malawi and Tanzania. The FIB was established to deal with M23 and all negative forces. We have neutralized the M23 successfully, but there are still other negative forces operating in that area. The inability of the UN and the DRC government to resolve the matter of the removal of the 2 DRC generals indicted for human rights violations remains one of the impediments to conducting disarmament operations. Going forward, our primary concern is the safety of the affected civilian population whose lives we cannot endanger. Furthermore, as part of the mission Tebe, The SANDF has to date trained 9,000 recruits and soldiers in the DRC. Demands for the services of the military are ever increasing. At home, the Defense Force continues to deploy 13 companies for border safeguarding duties. These 13 companies must be expanded to 22 to execute the full border safeguarding requirement. But due to budgetary constraints we have not met this expanded requirement. It is our intention to expand this by extra 2 companies in this financial year. 17 refurbished operational ambulances were delivered in the last financial year for use by soldiers deployed on the borders. During the operations, soldiers confiscated an assortment of contraband and intercepted undocumented foreign nationals. On a sad note, though, the Defense Force transported the mortal remains of the 84 South Africans who perished in Lagos, Nigeria, after the collapse of a church building. The Defense Force, together with other agencies, assisted in the complicated task of identifying, preparing, and transporting the mortal remains of the deceased and return them to their loved ones. The South African Navy continues to deploy its assets to combat piracy in the Mozambican Channel. This deployment is part of the SADC maritime strategy. The continuous presence of South African Navy platforms ensure the safety of merchant vessels to and from South Africa. Building the SA Navy remains a priority with a view to protecting our maritime economy in order to advance our development objectives. The South African Navy submarine, SAS Mantatisi, was successfully overhauled in Simonstown Dockyard and is currently operational. This is the first time that a Type 209 submarine refit has been completed in Africa. The long-awaited refit of the SA Navy frigate SAS Amatola is in its final stages in Durban. A decision was taken last year to return the dockyard to the Defense Force due to AMSCO's inability, unfortunately, to manage this capability. South Africa has been in the forefront of the establishment of ASIRIC to deal with security challenges on the continent. Volunteering nations have started with preparations to build this capacity. During 2014, the SANDF prepared its pledged force to reach an interim operational capacity by 30th of September 2015 and a full operational capacity by the 30th of November of the same year. ASIRIC is intended to be a provisional arrangement while the African Union builds capacity for an AU standby force. African ministers of defense met last Friday at Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe to confirm the commitment made by the African chiefs of defense that African standby force must be in place and operational by December 2015. Exercise Amani Africa is one of the AU's main tools to support the African standby force. South Africa will be hosting this exercise from the 19th of October to the 7th of November. The DOD is the chair of the JCPS cluster, and we are committed to working with the sister departments to achieve the objective of outcome number 3 of the MTSF, which says all people in South Africa are and feel safe, and Vision 2030. The DOD will effectively safeguard South Africa's borders, contribute to the development of the cybersecurity strategy and implementation plan, and ensure that matters of corruption are reduced. There are a number of areas that I will briefly touch on where work is being done as part of our objective to rejuvenate the Defense Force through personnel and organizational renewal. Honorable members, I wish to speak to the matter of recruitment. We must be sensitive and remember where we come from in the manner in which we do our work and how we strive to have a democratic and non-sexist and non-racial society. The SANDF must reflect the demographics of our society. I hereby direct the Defense Force, the SA Army in particular, to develop strategies and plans to target the recruitment of those communities who are underrepresented within the South African Army. Secondly, members will agree that the most rigorous training that one can receive, it is military training. There is, however, a regulatory and statutory framework which regulates how training must be conducted. Whilst this is the case, numerous reports have come to the fore that suggest that there are some abuses of recruits during training. The Defense Force has taken such reports very seriously to the extent of service chiefs and the military ombuds undertaking investigations in this regard. Military disciplinary action has been taken against those instructors who were found to have contravened the regulations. I have researched the applicable legislation and regulations related to the retirement of SANDF members. Currently, the retirement age is 60 years, and I'm considering, at the discretion of the minister, extending it to 65. There is no legislative amendment required for this extension. It is a matter that can be dealt with in the regulations. This can assist us to retain the skills which we need, whilst we are rejuvenating the Defence Force and developing our career succession plans. We have a similar challenge that must be addressed in the Reserve Force. By the end of the last financial year, we had approximately 4272 MSDS members in the system. We need to increase the intake of the MSDS recruits to rejuvenate the Defence Force. The current intake is as follows: Army 1574, Air Force 80, Navy 214, SAMS 175. I am proud, honorable members, to announce that since 2014, a total of 128 Defence Force members, very young people, have undertaken studies in Cuba in the fields of mechanical engineering and related technical disciplines, air traffic control, aviation, and various fields of medicine. Since 2011, the SANDF has rolled out the University Reserve Training Program at 11 universities. To date, 298 have completed their basic and initial officer training, qualifying them for junior officer appointments in the Reserve Force. The revitalization and transformation of the reserves remains a priority, particularly because out of the 22600 reserves, 14,600 were called up and mostly deployed in border safeguarding operations. However, progress is hampered by acute budgetary constraints. We have established an education trust that assists the education of the children whose soldiers who lost their lives on the line of duty. Since its inception, the trust has now awarded a total of 98 bursaries to these children. Last year, when we met in this house, I set the target of 30% for women in the SANDF. I can happily report to you today that we have met this target. In addition, there are now 5 female major generals and 35 brigadier generals. We must remember that before 1994, there were only 2 female brigadier generals in this country. We already have 8 female defense attaches. A sizable number of women are further deployed in all spheres of our military operations. We have approximately 432 females deployed externally and 562 internally. The UN itself recognizes that we deploy the most women in the world to its international peace missions. The following measures will be implemented to redress the gender imbalance: 1, increase of women at all levels of military command; 2, increase in the number of female defense attaches; 3, organization of gender and leadership seminars across the gender divide; 4, incorporation of gender perspective and dynamics into all military development courses. Women in the SANDF equally have a responsibility to make themselves available for training in order that we have a wide pool of female soldiers that can be considered for promotion. I've signed an MOU with the Department of Public Works on the transfer of immovable assets. It is my belief that this arrangement will enable the DoD to properly manage its own property portfolio to the benefit of our members who live and work therein. The DoD is grateful that National Treasury has approved a sum of 900 million for this work. We are training artisans, and I'm proud to announce that we've now completed training of 751 members we have trained as artisans. Last year, I reported on the appointment of the medical task team in March 2014 to investigate a number of factors which were impacting negatively on the military health system. And following their initial report, which I reported to you about, I received the final report of the task team in September 2014 after I had expanded its mandate. And its recommendations have since been translated into implementation plans in terms of human resources, infrastructure, and healthcare. We've now conducted a comprehensive audit of the translation of health professionals to the various OSD. And the outstanding grade progressions started at the end of September 2014 and will continue until all the audits and required notifications with regards to health professionals are completed. Some translations were incomplete and grade progressions were outstanding, hence the brain drain of medical practitioners in the 2 years. The Defense Work Formation has taken over the refurbishment of project of 1 military hospital. Clinical meetings and morbidity and mortality meetings have been established in the 3 military hospitals for the training and development of the community service doctors and interns. Honorable members, I undertook to ensure that my department works in a cost-effective manner to optimally use the resources allocated to it. We've enhanced the capacity of the internal audit function to ensure compliance with the department norms and standards. Last year, I appointed a new AMSCO board under the chairmanship of Admiral Mudimu. The AMSCO board has since finalized the AMSCO turnaround strategy, and Admiral Mudimu, who will soon be leaving us, has done a sterling work in positioning AMSCO for the future. We wish to thank him for his significant contribution. And I'm delighted to announce that we've appointed the CEO of AMSCO, Mr. Kevin Wakeford, who I'm sure he's in our midst here, for a period of 5 years, as from the 1st of May 2015. The corporation and its new CEO must now address the backlogs in our acquisition. AMSCO must further ensure it meets the required level of material acquisition support in line with the Defense Review of 2014. The Permanent Defense Force Service Commission was appointed in 2013, and I reported this, but it does have challenges. The possible inadequacies of the Commission's powers to fulfill its mandate are being addressed so that it is empowered to undertake all matters envisioned by Section 198 of the Constitution of the Republic. The Military Ombudsman continues to address the grievances of both serving and former members of the SANDF. Since its inception, 875 cases were reserved and 658 cases have been finalized. I will now hand over to the Deputy Minister to present on the military veterans. I make a plea that the House adopts this budget vote of 44.5 billion for the DOD. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Mapisa Ngakula. Sebakeng se re tlo mema modulasetulo wa komiti Mohlomphehi Motimele go tšwetša poledišano pele.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Members of Parliament, guests in the gallery, comrades and compatriots. Honorable Chairperson, the ANC supports and embraces this budget vote. Honorable Chairperson, the advent of democracy in 1994 ushered in a new social order and laid the foundation for a democratic and inclusive state founded on the noble ideals of the Freedom Charter, the values of human dignity, human rights, freedom, and non-racialism. Achievements in the last 20 years by this ANC-led government include making inroads into the triple challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Pro-poor policies led to the reduction in poverty, and grants are now benefiting more than 16 million people. But all of this would not have been possible if there was not a stable and secure environment in which to execute these activities. The role of the Defense Force is bringing such a stable environment about, often goes unnoticed, unappreciated, but is indeed non-negotiable. Besides having a constitutional mandate to ensure that our people are secured, the Defense Force has been instrumental in serving our national interests, locally and abroad. The role of the Defense Force in disaster relief, anti-poaching operations, assisting the police, as well as stepping in during the strikes by health workers, bespeaks of a Defense Force that is deeply aware not only of its constitutional mandate, but also of its role in a developmental state. We are, however, the first to admit that there are challenges in the defense environment, and to this extent, the Defense Review 2014 has been instituted to guide our defense activities for the next 20 to 30 years. The Defense Review should be understood as a body of public policy that a government pronounces as its guidelines for the defense objectives and functions of the armed forces. The National Defense Policy also clearly identifies the possible threats to a country's national security, its society, economy, territory, and environment, and provides options to government on how the defense force should deal with such threats. Chairperson, through the numerous interactions with individuals, NGOs, civil society, academics, and state agencies in the consultation process of both the Defense Review Committee and the Joint Standing Committee on Defense, we confirm that what our people expect of the defense force. The wide consultation, and especially the representativeness of it, led to the conclusion that this review can indeed be truly viewed as a genuine product for all South Africans by all South Africans. It is therefore without hesitation that the committee will throw its weight behind the Defense Force to realize the desired end state of the Defense Force as depicted in Planning Milestone 5 of the Defense Review 2014. The Force Employment Program constitutes 8.08% of the defense budget and is responsible for the provision and employment of defense capabilities to conduct operations. Given that it includes peace support and anti-piracy operation and border safeguarding duties, it is imperative that this program should be funded accordingly. This against the background that there is a 10% decrease in funding for regional security while the commitments have not been scaled down. This is a concern that should be addressed, especially since this program contributes to the medium-term strategic framework 2014-2019 outcome 3, that all people in South Africa are and feel safe, and outcome 11, that will create a better South Africa and contribute to a better Africa and a better world. The Maritime Defense Program has been allocated 8.39% of the defense budget and plays an instrumental role in anti-piracy operations along the East Coast, to such an extent that it has been credited with assisting to address this international scourge. We applaud their sterling performance, but are concerned about the limited sea hours allocated, as this is likely to impact on force preparation and actual operations. The committee also welcomes the introduction of the turnaround strategy by the AMSCO for the naval dockyard. The department is urged to speed up the implementation of this strategy to ensure the continued operational readiness of the Navy's fleet. The General Support Program is the third largest one with an allocation of 5.8 billion and is responsible for the provision of general support, capabilities, and services to the department. The allocation of 951.8 million over the medium term to capacitate staff and operationalize the Defense Works Formation is an initiative that the committee has been supporting since its inception. This will allow the department to repair and maintain its infrastructure and facilities which have been neglected, as witnessed during oversight visits by the committee. The priority attached to the refurbishment of military bases and headquarters are also welcomed, as well as the demolition of unserviceable infrastructure. From the above, Honorable Chairperson, it should be clear that the Defense Force does not only contribute to several goals of the National Development Plan and the MTSF, but is also prioritizing Planning Milestone 1, arresting of the decline in defense capability as outlined in the Defense Review 2014. It is therefore with these priorities in mind that the Portfolio Committee committed itself to assist the department in optimizing its capabilities. This will ensure that it executes its constitutional mandate and the wishes of the people as expressed during the wide consultation process of the Defense Review. The approval of this budget vote is indeed symbolic of our appreciation of the efforts of the Defence Force. It is also a confirmation of the role of the Defence Force in a developmental state which strives to secure our people and assist our neighbors in pursuit of a better South Africa and a better Africa in a better world. Once again, Honorable Chairperson, the ANC support this budget vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mjimele, Chairperson of the committee. Ons gaan nou voor met die debat en nou achtbare manier na die podium. Jy is al klaar daar.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would like to begin by welcoming the Minister back from Moscow, home of President Jacob Zuma's favorite dictator, President Vladimir Putin. We all know the visit ended in what the Minister must have thought was a humiliating scandal, but what most of us thought was a twisted scene from the movie The Dictator. An extra fuel stop was just too much for the president, and so at the cost of millions of rands, 4 chartered jets were used to transport him home, while the minister and the rest of the entourage had to endure the indignity of flying home on commercial aircraft. All I can say is that the minister is lucky that the president's favorite dictator is President Vladimir Putin and is not North Korea's supreme leader, Kim Jong-un, who last week executed his defense minister using anti-aircraft guns for the relatively minor offense of falling asleep at a meeting. If this was North Korea, which thankfully it is not yet, the minister would no doubt have been dispatched by anti-aircraft guns long ago for offenses much more serious than falling asleep at a meeting. Now, Chairperson, we are here to debate the 44.5 billion rand budget for defense in the 2015-16 financial year. We do not know much about force employment, but we do know the Defence Force is deployed in some of the most dangerous conflict zones in the world. And so we would like to take this opportunity to salute the men and women in uniform serving at the sharp end of the Defence Force. We salute you and we say thank you, thank you, thank you for your service to our country. But Minister, we are concerned about the current deployment of the Defence Force in support of the South African Police Service as part of Operation Fiela. We all agree the Defence Force should be employed internally in support of the South African Police Service in exceptional circumstances only. We did not oppose the deployment of the Defence Force in support of the South African Police Service at the height of the xenophobic violence, precisely because of the exceptional circumstances, which included dealing with high levels of xenophobic violence in more than one province with limited police capability. But those exceptional circumstances no longer exist, and for that reason, we believe the Defence Force's role in Operation Fiela should be terminated immediately. There is no reason for the Defence Force to be deployed in a crime-combating operation being conducted countrywide by the South African Police Service. Now, Chairperson, we know the Defence Force is in deep trouble. We are spending too much on personnel, we are spending too little on operations, and we are spending much too little on capital acquisition. We have a Defence Force geared for welfare rather than a Defence Force geared for warfare. The last best hope for the Defence Force is the Defence Review. The Defence Review made a brutally honest assessment of the Defence Force. The Defence Force, according to the Defence Review, is in a critical state of decline. And the Defence Review also found that, even with an immediate intervention, it could take at least 5 years to arrest that decline. There is therefore an element of urgency Every day wasted talking about the defense review rather than implementing the defense review accelerates the decline in the defense force. But for the past year, the defense review has been bogged down here in Parliament. And why has the defense review been bogged down here in Parliament? The minister wants to know, and I'll tell the minister. It's not just because the ANC are lazy, though laziness is part of it. It's not just that the ANC are incompetent, but incompetence is part of it. And it's not just that the ANC are disinterested, although disinterest is part of it. It's because the ANC don't care. They don't care about the defense force, and they don't care about the soldiers in the defense force. That is the truth. The defense review is a 344-page document based on 436 stakeholder meetings, 76 public submissions, and it cost the taxpayer 11 million rand. And yet this committee in Parliament spent less than an hour deliberating on the defense review before it was rubber-stamped. In with the end, we know the defense review is not implementable because it is not affordable. That is why we've recommended that the defense review should be withdrawn from Parliament and that it should be revised so that it can be affordable and implementable and then retabled in Parliament. Because in the end, if the defense review fails, the defense force fails. It's that simple. Now, Chairperson, the defense force has become a state within a state, beyond effective control and oversight by this Parliament. We have never received a briefing on any operation by the defense force. We have never received a briefing on the military preparedness of the defense force. We have never received a briefing on defense acquisition or the billions channeled through the special defense account. And we have stopped receiving replies to written parliamentary questions on issues that matter. And nowhere is that better illustrated than in written questions probing the costs of flights undertaken by President Jacob Zuma. The standard response is, I cannot reply to the question because the information by its nature is sensitive. That is absolute rubbish, and I have had enough. I will therefore be submitting a Promotion of Access to Information Act request concerning information related to President Zuma's flights. And I want the minister to know that if she refuses to disclose the information, we will pursue this matter in court and compel the minister to disclose the information.
On a point of
In
order,
the end,
Chair.
I want the minister to know this.
Honorable Menir, just hold it. Honorable
Yes, Chair.
Member.
No, I thought that if I've heard properly, the member is
Relax,
using the
Nyami.
word rubbish. And I don't think it's parliamentary, the type of
Relax.
language that we use.
Relax.
Okay. The word rubbish is unparliamentary, but because I did not hear it, I will go to the Hansard and come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. In the end, I want the minister to know this. If you want a war, you've come to the right place. You are accountable, so you can choose to be accountable, or I will force you to be accountable. It's your choice. But hear this from me. We have had enough. It's this far and no further. You have been warned. I thank you.
Thank you. Kwanje sizokubiza umhlonishwa Dlamini uqhubeka.
Honorable Chair, honorable members and honorable guests. The EFF rejects the Defense and Military Veterans budget vote. How could we approve a budget when the department has not completed its defense review implementation plan? President Jacob Zuma, in his State of Nation address, he said it's illegal to employ people for more than 3 months without giving them a permanent position. But however, the SANDF recruits thousands of young people into the force, gives them 2 years of military training, and then terminate their contracts. Honorable Chair, the decentralization of the recruitment will leave even more young people out of the force and dump back into the townships, as this department has failed to employ them permanently. A 26-year-old Neo Molo, recruited into the Defense Force, he wrote to the EFF that he was given a military training, spent 2 years in Bethlehem, and then he was sent home when he was not given permanent work. In his letter, he asked, I quote, "Is this the way the government is fighting unemployment, by teaching young people to use weapons that kill and then send them home to suffer in poverty? All recruited members of the force must be employed permanently. All salaries of the security class staff persons must be reviewed and standardized together with all the public servants." How could we prove a budget when, with inconsistencies and inaccuracies in the performance information tabled on the reports and without the CFO? Honorable Minister, we condemn the deployment of the soldiers in Alexander as a supposed response to the xenophobic violence. For what it is an expression of self-hate and militarization of the township wherein the government responds with violence to the poor people already living under the violent conditions. Deployment of troops is used as a private security for mining companies owned by white monopoly capital using their own economic security guards, which are PE partners. Military veterans, department continues to be dysfunctional without a CFO or an executive, which can only be explained by the deep-rooted corruption that is happening in that department. Honorable Minister, until we see real transformation in the Defense Force and all its recruits are employed permanently and paid decent wages, EFF cannot support this budget vote.
Thank you, Honorable Dlamini. Let me just say this. Honorable members, the rule says you cannot pass between the chair and the speaker. I decided to let it go with Honorable Dlamini because I think he's still new. And Honorable Mngango did it too. So Honorable Mngango, please don't do it. You are now allowed to speak, Honorable Mngango.
My apologies for that, Madam Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, as the IFP, we support the 2015-2016 departmental budget vote. And we also welcome the priorities identified as the department's focus, such as defense capability, border safeguarding, as well as cybersecurity capabilities. We still have some major concerns, though, with regards to the reductions in some sub-programs of the Force Employment Program, specifically the Regional Security Sub-Program, as well as the Training and Development. This will impact negatively on the ability of the SANDF to effectively meet its regional and continental peacekeeping commitments. Peacekeeping operations in many instances require specialized equipment to meet operational expectations, given the topography and the climate of areas that these take place in. We cannot expect our men and women on the ground to carry out these missions while they are ill-equipped to deal with the situations they find themselves in. We are also greatly concerned about the reimbursement collection from the UN and AU in respect of peacekeeping operations, which remains a great challenge. We urge the Minister to prioritize this issue and take steps to ensure that in terms of agreements made, we are properly and timely compensated. Honorable Minister, we as IFP commend the supportive role that the Navy has played in the anti-piracy activities on the coast of East Africa. Due to their involvement, there have been noticeable reductions in piracy reported cases. It is also important that this specific area remains on our security radar because it is a strategic corridor for our economic activities as a country, and it must also be kept safe for the passage of our commercial vessels. With regards to military veterans, as IFP, we welcomed the creation of the department, especially because one of its strategic objectives is to look after the welfare of military veterans. However, the department needs to pull up its socks in its performance and the attainment of its strategic objectives. The fact that they received a disclaimer for the 2014-2015 financial year is a blot on its financial management record. As the IFP, we would want the Military Veterans Register, for instance, to be made a public document for the sake of public interest. Our people need to know who these beneficiaries are, what they do, their age priorities. It is inconceivable for a person to claim benefits at the age of 35 under the pretext that he or she is a military veteran. Making it public will also help avoid the misuse of resources and funds. The strategic nature of AMSCO's role with regards to the defense requirements cannot be overemphasized. The main concern that we have as IFP is the fact that the skills, attractions, and retention strategies of AMSCO have not yet yielded the desired results. This might have a negative effect on the attainment of the overall goals of the Defense Review 2014. Global conflicts, Madam Minister, are becoming more and more sophisticated by the day, and the need for cybersecurity capabilities cannot be overemphasized. It is equally important that our defense capability pay a particular attention to the rise of militant terrorist groups, mostly under the guise of religious fundamentalism. It is concerning that groups such as Daesh, which is commonly known as ISIS, Al-Shabaab, etc., are said to have targeted South Africa as a fertile ground for recruitment. Our intelligence community, including our defense intelligence, would do well to keep a microscopic eye on these developments. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Mngango. Honorable members, before I continue, I just want to inform the House that there have been challenges on the usage of the word rubbish, but what is important is the context under which it was used. Because if you say somebody speaking rubbish, that is when it's unparliamentary. That's why I said I'll listen to the Hansard and hear the context of that and come back to you. Thank you very much. We now call on the Deputy Minister of Defense, Honorable Member, to continue with the debate.
Honorable Chairperson, the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, the co-chairpersons and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Defense, members of the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans, honorable members, Secretary of Defense, the Chief of the SANDF, Chiefs of Service and Divisions, the DG of DMV and his team present, the leadership of SANVA, the Lituli Detachment, military veteran present here, ladies and gentlemen, and I quote, "South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and that no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people," close quotes. One stands here today to elaborate on the Ministry of Defense and Military Veterans of the government of the ANC, which has been elected to govern by the will of the majority of the people. In this vein, the Constitution of the Republic enjoins all of us, government, private sector, and the society, to honor those who sacrifice for our democracy. Among those we must honor and ensure as government, business, and society are the military veterans. In this task of honoring the military veterans and addressing their plight, we have had challenges of a disclaimer as issued by the Office of the Auditor General. Currently, we have put systems in place to ensure that we change that state of affairs. That process is in operation, and we hope that in the shortest possible time, we shall be able to give a progress report to Parliament on the measures we have taken and the systems that have been put in place. We have turned the corner. Last year, upon one's assumptions of duty, we committed to ensure the restoration of the dignity of military veterans. Honorable Chairperson, of the total allocated budget of 582 million rands, 424 million has been allocated for the rollout of all benefits and services to military veterans. On health and wellness, requests for proposals were advertised to test the viability of providing these services differently in partnership with the private sector in attempts to bring the services nearer to the beneficiaries. This was done in realization that beneficiaries often have to travel long distances for medical attention when they could be attended to by local doctors for primary health purposes. On educational support, the initial target set was to provide 400 military veterans and their dependents with education support during this financial year. I'm elated to announce that we have surpassed that target with 1,000%. Currently, 3,650 military veterans and their dependents are in receipt of educational support. Of this, 1,822 are in higher education, whilst 1,828 in basic education at a budget cost of 130 million. We are pleased to have in our midst Kumisa Mlandla and Patrick Mangeshe, who are beneficiaries and are now graduates. Compensation for injury in military service. A last breakthrough has also been made in rolling out the long-awaited compensation for injury in military service in line with the Military Pensions Act. Out of the 100 disparate cases that have been identified, 23 military veterans have since received a payment and 77 applications are currently in progress and will be paid out before the end of September 2015. A total of 4.2 million has been set aside for that. On housing, an area in which there was slower delivery than planned was in housing. Working in concert with the Department of Human Settlement, the DMV is hard at work in ensuring that the obstacles and challenges are overcome. In the last financial year, over 78 million rand has now been transferred to the Department of Human Settlement for top-up in the construction of 1,000 houses for military veterans. In the current financial year, of whose budget we are now appearing, 164 million has been set aside for provision of housing. The military veterans pension. A military veterans pension has been developed in partnership with the Government Pensions Administrative Agency, the Special Pension, and the Department of Social Development, and that framework has since been converted into a policy. Before the end of this financial year, the first person is expected to be paid to 600 military veterans at a total estimated cost of 25 million. Whilst awaiting finalization of that process, a total of 833 of the most destitute military veterans have been provided with social relief of distress. On public transport, an area of serious concern is the public transport subsidy. The ministry has accordingly instructed the DMV to give added attention in accelerating the delivery of this important benefit. 1.8 million has been set aside for this financial year to ensure the commencement of rollout of this important benefit. Engagements with the Department of Transport as well as other relevant stakeholders are being undertaken to find lasting solutions. The database verification completion. This process has effectively been completed, save for the capturing of names into systems. A total of 10 million has been set aside for the creation of a credible database. There are some applications which are awaiting the appeal processes. Honorable Chairperson, on the economic support of the military veteran, one is pleased to announce that so far, through the DMV partnership with the Department of Trade and Industry, 97 cooperatives were registered, while 30 more are in the process of being registered. I am pleased to announce the department will host the military veterans cooperatives in Dava within the next 3 months. About 50 business plans are currently being finalized, while 196 military veteran economic activity entities are now registered with SEDA to access no financial assistance in the form of training from SEDA. On reduction of unemployment, the DMV has to date provided access to job opportunities for 1,140 military veterans. The Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa has employed a total of 926 military veterans in permanent positions. Ntate Kabelo Mansane, Prasa, Rialeboha. To you, Mr. Lucky Montana, as the Group CEO of Prasa, we are sincerely grateful. Among other government institutions and spheres that have supported the plight of military veterans, would like to acknowledge and thank the municipalities across the country for having employed 904 military veterans, and also thank the Department of Water Affairs for 110 permanent job placements at the Jericho Dam in Standerton. There shall be work and security. Ziyalunga izinto zamakhomanda. On the burial support, we also promise to attend to a better facilitation of standardized funerals for military veterans through an initiative of burial support. This initiative has also been tested in the market, and we hope to finalize and operationalize it during this current financial year. We are pleased to announce that we have started the process to amend the Military Veterans Act 18 of 2011. The department would give priority attention to the amendment to accommodate dependents of military veterans, particularly with regards to the provision of free health care and burial support. We will ensure that it is speedily placed before Parliament and its institutional processes for consideration. We wish to honor our comrades who recently passed on, among them our mother and stalwart, Mama Ruth Mampati, Comrade Hlape Melatu, also known as Comrade Fish, and the late General Isidore Mbata. It is important to mention that the late General Mbata passed on while playing a very important role as a defense chief of logistics to ensure a process which would enable military veterans to benefit favorably in the military procurement procedures. May his soul and those of the other veterans rest in peace. It is important to note that General Mbata, in his capacity as the co-chairperson of the Cape Castle Board, was leading his team in the reimaging and repositioning of the castle to represent its history as a center of memory of our history, of our colonization, which was the genesis of centuries of racial oppression and conflict in our country. To this end, steps are being taken to list the Cape Castle as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. May I thank the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans for the leadership she has provided since one was given the responsibility to deputize here. She has indeed been the light and mentor, and I urge the House to support this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Kulesikhathi sizobiza umhlonishwa mnisi ukuqhubekisa inkulumo yokubhikiswana.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers present, Honorable Members of Parliament, and our guests in the gallery. The 1992 Ready to Govern policy document of the ANC provided a vision of a new national defense force that is loyal to and uphold the Constitution of the Republic. A defense force that is accountable to the Republic through Parliament and respects the rights of the soldiers and citizens. A defense force whose professional conduct is guided by the Code of Conduct based on universally accepted democratic principles. This vision does not just relate to the military command, discipline, uniqueness of the environment of what has become South African National Defense Force. It also calls for the ongoing transformation of the defense military structure and better conditions of service. Chairperson, the objectives of the National Development Plan is to strengthen South Africa's position in the SADC region and to increase trade and investment. We therefore commend the department for continuing to provide defense force support in operations to bring economic and political stability to the continent. This includes contributing to the SADC maritime security strategy by combating piracy along the east coast of Africa. Chairperson, according to the Defense Review, the SANDF is in a critical state of decline. It is unsustainable, and its prime mission equipment, especially in the landward force, faces block, obsolescence, ammunition stocks are depleted, infrastructure is falling apart, skilled staff is leaving, and the arms of the various services operate in silos and are unable to manage basic procurement, which is centralized and run by the Deputy Director General in the Defense Secretariat. The nub of the review is its recommendation that South Africa embark on a long-term commitment to 2034 to achieve 4 key milestones: to rejuvenate the Department of Defense and establish commensurate capabilities. These are planning milestone 1 from 2015, planning milestone 2 from 2017, planning milestone 3 from 2023, and planning milestone 4 from 2028. Another key objective of the National Development Plan is to reduce youth unemployment. The Department of Defense can continue with these aspects of the plan through its National Youth Service Program. The program provides selected youth with basic skills such as discipline, entrepreneurial, and vocational skills before they are absorbed into government departments. This initiative also contributes to broader social development and upliftment. Chairperson, we once more commend the department of having trained 6,745 National Youth Service members since 2011-2012. It's heartening to note that recruitment and training continues in military skills development system as a means of force rejuvenation. Chairperson, we are encouraged by the fact that 13,524 members are said to be trained over the MTEF period. The White Paper of Defense and the Defense Review require that the SANDF should consist of relatively small regular force and optimally large reserve force. This principle follows the international trend of most modern defense forces. Accordingly, the defense strategy was adjusted to incorporate the thinking pattern that is amplify in its human resource system. The military skills development system form part of the new SANDF service system and is the first carrier element of a 3-system process. The core service system and the senior carrier system make up the training element of this new employment initiative. The generic MSDS model requires that initial military and specialist training be conducted during the first employment year, while the second year is devoted to the operational development of young and fit men and women. Because the Defense Force is a department of the state, the acts and regulations governing affirmative action and equal opportunities are strictly applied during the recruitment of potential candidates. In conclusion, Chairperson, our freedom was not free. We remember and honor those who fought and died for freedom. We salute countless number of people who endured untold hardships and made unimaginable sacrifices, who fought from underground, who spent days, months, too often years incarcerated for freedom, as well as women and men left behind to keep the heat burning. Freedom is the bridge between our past, our present, and our future. We are free to choose to construct the bridge alongside each other and in mutual service to another. I feel free. Indeed, I am free. The ANC support the budget. I thank you.
Siyabonga mhlonishwa mnisi. Kulesikhathi sizobiza umhlonishwa Holomisa ukuqhubekisa inkulumo epikisana.
Honorable Chairperson, Minister and members. The United Democratic Movement supports budget vote number 19. In appreciation of the work of the Defence Force Service Commission, which has been presented to this Parliament previously, and being privileged to be its member, I would like to appeal to the Portfolio Committee on Defence and Military Veterans to convene a brainstorming session involving the Minister, Commission, Secretary for Defence and Command element of the Defence Force. Such a session must consider the effectiveness or otherwise of the Defence Force Service Commission, in particular with respect to the promise made to soldiers that its powers will be equivalent to that of the Public Service Commission, instead of being an advisory body to the minister. It should be remembered that one of the burning issues at the time, and continues to be, is that soldiers are not part of the Public Service Bargaining Council. The funding of this department has been a cause for concern for a long time. However, delays in processing the South African Defence Force review make it difficult to resolve this critical matter. I have taken note of the Honourable Minister's reference to Defence Review Implementation Plan. However, more effort must be towards the finalization of the Defence Review Implementation Plan so that it can be presented to Parliament and National Treasury within a period of 3 months. Further delays may necessitate the review of the defence operations both local and abroad. In this regard, we believe that the security of South Africa is a priority in everything that our defence force is doing. We have at pains experienced unnecessary delays in receiving feedbacks from the department on the reports we generate and submit in accordance with the mandate of the Defence Force Service Commission. These delays are due to the fact that the Minister and the accounting officer is frequently out of the country. We call upon the Minister and Secretary for Defence, the accounting officer, to put moratorium on the frequent travel outside of the country. Okokugqibela, me Honourable Nyami Boy, siqale kunye lento ye-commission yakhumbula lanto ye-powers. Sistakile ngokwantu kufuna ukuxoka kangoba iye yanyanzelisa into yoba nee-commanders zamajoni zake zasibiza. Sathi hayibo, ingathi toothless lo mcimbi. So ndiyakufuna ukuba uyicebise i-portfolio committee ngee-powers ze-commission ukwenzela into yoba xa sifida sinika senze i-report sibe independent sizise epalamente sinike uminister. Not ngolu hlobo loba sinike i-report kuthatha ixesha uze sifumane impendulo.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you very much.
Oh, sendigqibile. Enkosi.
Honourable Kunevat.
Achtbare voorzitter, in 1994 was ek in Pietersburg, nou Polokwane, met die weermagparade en die saluut is waargeneem deur die toe president Nelson Mandela. En sy woorde was dat ons het 'n trotse weermag. Die wapentuig was tentoongestel, 'n professionele, gedisiplineerde weermag. Dit is wat die ANC geërf het. Hy het 'n verdere hoogtepunt gehaal. Die hoogtepunt verder was dat daar was 'n wapenaankopeprogram. Dit was aanvanklik bereken op 30 miljard, maar dit het op die einde van die dag by 70 miljard gedraai. Van die mees gesofistikeerde wapentuig. In terme van vegvliegtuie was die Gripen vegvliegtuig een van die mees gesofistikeerde vegvliegtuie. Die duikbote. Met ander woorde, die erfporsie van die ANC wat betref die Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale weermag was 'n goeie, ryk erfporsie. Maar agbare minister, wat het intussen gebeur?
Ons verloor soldate en hulle sterf in die Sentraal-Afrikaanse Republiek, want daar is nie behoorlike lugsteun nie. Waar is die Grippins? Hulle is weggesteek in 'n stoor. Hoekom? Wat het daarvan geword? Ons moet lees en sien dat 'n duikboot gedurende 'n oefening operasie teen die seebodem bots. Agbare minister, wat het geword van ons opleidingsstandaarde? Die agbare minister verwys na dissipline ding. Agbare minister, dan moet die mense van Suid-Afrika lees van 'n kolonel in haar uniform wat met pink slippers rondloop. Pantoffels, hoe is dit moontlik? Daar is hoeveel sulke voorbeelde. Die ergste is wat ons van Oudtshoorn gevind het, waar daar 'n partytjie gehou word en waar senior offisier wat besope is, so ver gaan om die reaksiemag van die weermag met skerppunt ammunisie in konflik te bring met die Suid-Afrikaanse polisie. Ek het 'n vraag gevra, u het geantwoord. U sê daar is dissiplinêr teen hom opgetree. Agbare minister, ek sal wil hê u moet vir Suid-Afrika vanmiddag vertel, wat se dissiplinêre stappe het u geneem? Want ek sê vandag vir u, daardie senior offisier het sedisie gepleeg en behoort daarvoor aangekla te word en behoort nie 'n dag langer in die Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale weermag te gewees het nie. Daardie insident behoort eintlik vir u as ANC regering ook 'n waarskuwing te wees om te sê daar kan magte wees wat die reg in eie hande neem en selfs 'n staatsgreep toepas. En as u nie gaan optree nie, dan sê ek vir u, bevorder u swak dissipline in Suid-Afrika. Agbare minister, wat het geword van daardie ryk erfenis? Ons moet die antwoorde kry daarop. Ek dank u.
Thank you, Honorable Carter.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'd like to firstly start off by thanking the Defence for its magnificent contribution to peace, even though the budget constraints are so difficult. Your sacrifices are not going unseen. I thank you. Honourable Minister, war does not tell or warn when it will break out. Our country's defence force must be strong to defend our citizens and our country. The defence force are there to defend our country against external threats and to play a supportive role in very specialised areas to maintain stability in our society, such as assisting the police service. And I reiterate, police service. In order to play a supportive role, only specialised units with appropriate training and skills may be used in civilian action. Where such supporting roles are required, it must be for limited periods, so that no impression is created that we are a military state. The recent deployment of a Defence Force personnel to go out and raid homes was a misleading action. At no stage were we informed that the authority of our government had fallen into the hands of foreign forces and what these foreign forces consisted of. There was no indication given to any of us that parts of South Africa was controlled by alien forces. And Honourable Minister, it must be stopped immediately. To Honourable Mnisi, you're talking about the Constitution. This government has no regard for the Constitution, for the supreme law of our country. The Defence Force cannot make the mistake that the French army made at the outbreak of World War II. Listen and learn. It must remain at the forefront of innovation and technology. The size of a defence force is irrelevant, and bureaucracy is a dangerous enemy, as the French found out. Technological capabilities and capable military decision-making are most significant. A defence force that cannot take military decisions when given the command is the defence force that we need to develop. The role of research in this regard is very significant. Honourable Minister, I want to commend the research of one Gerard Martin Louw, who completed his research on South African defence policy and capabilities in December 2013. I'm indebted to his research. After the 1998 Defence Review, government made an important distinction between the security of a state and the security of a people. There is no doubt that the greatest threat to the security of the South African people comes not from external sources, but it comes from within. Our security is under threat because of unacceptably high levels of poverty, unemployment, crime, violence. This danger is an extreme danger. To use the police and the army to quell protest arising from socio-economic grievances misses the strategic departure point of armies in the modern world. Armies must build trust and work with society, not against them. Our Defence Force, in terms of Section 202, has to act strictly in accordance with the Constitution. For this reason, it is imperative for the Defence Force to acquire new and additional peacetime capabilities and deep and abiding understanding of our Constitution. Only then will the Defence Force execute its peace support operations and internal deployment in cooperation with SAPS in a manner consistent with the Constitution. Chairperson, just the mic keeps on going off. This is a safeguard for the army as well as the people. Any defence force for the purpose of total readiness must continuously rehearse the role it most likely to play each year as that year unfolds. It must do the tests. It must do so to test constitutional compliance and excellence as well. Both the level of its soldiers' skills as well as organizational competence of commanders to execute their respective tasks must show a high level of prophecy. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Skosana.
Honorable Chairperson, first of all, I would like to support the budget because this is the budget of the people. The Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, Honorable Mapisa Ngakula, Deputy Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Chairperson of Portfolio Committee of Defence and Military Veterans, DG of Defence, and all Defence and Military family, honorable members and distinguished guests, fellow South Africans, I greet you all. During April 1994, on the 27th, the people of South Africa went all out and stood in the long queue in a hot sun and rain to vote for their beloved organization, the ANC. This has happened after the citizens of this country made a call to the ANC that they need the transformation of the state machinery and the government at large. The Defence Force was not exception in the process. Honorable Chairperson, it should be borne in mind that the defense remains an amalgamation of the former apartheid and Bantustan statutory forces together with non-statutory forces of the liberation movement. During apartheid was meant to secure and protect privilege for the white minority, and the defense force was most pronounced in this respect. Vestiges of the legacy of apartheid remain in the nature of the defense personnel and therefore should be a decisive strategy to address this situation. According to the Defense Review, there will be career management by the services and staff divisions through a standardized career management process that aligns organizational with individual career development or progression. According to Defense, will ensure clear career pathing, developing programs per mastering specialty. According to the Defense Review, the following principles, amongst others, will be pursued to enhance defense career management. 1, career and succession planning promotes the transfer of skills and competencies. 2, career paths are effectively communicated and individual career plans are regularly updated and compiled in consultation with the employee, and succession plans are available 2 years in advance. During the State of the Nation address of 2014, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma stated categorically that the conditions of employment of defense and military veterans should be addressed. These challenges faced by the defense and military veterans is also a concern of the ANC-led government. The 53rd conference at Mangaung resolved that, open quote, there should be a dedicated budget for the Department of Defense and military veterans, which should be adequate resources, close quote. The second radical transition from apartheid of the National Democratic Society is underpinned by the realization that the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, unemployment remains to be fully addressed. These challenges have many negative impacts to the lives of the people of this country. It is most evident in the lack of opportunities for economically active citizens to earn a wage. Poverty affects individuals and households in a manner that are often degrading and lead precarious lifestyles. Honorable Chairperson, however, the linkages between income, poverty, and deprivations in healthcare, education, and social infrastructure are direct with devastating consequences for individuals in society. In order to foster economic transformation, the Department of Defense and military veterans has embarked on a concerted drive for economic growth and mobilizing national resources towards developmental goals that include, amongst others, 1, economic growth, with development being prioritized through a sustainable policy, climate fostering, productive investment, exports, growth, and human welfare. 2, transformation of the economic base by promoting productive, income-generating economic activities and by ensuring that economic growth has the effect of improving the living conditions of the majority of the population. And policy having clearly defined socio-economic objectives, including, amongst others, alleviation of poverty, the correction of glaring inequalities of social conditions, and the tackling of looming threats to environmental degradation. Honorable Chairperson, one of the most important sectors within the Department of Defense and military veterans is the defense intelligence. The intelligence is a critical function that is used to support the planning, preparation, and execution of military operations. It is essential to integrate the intelligence operating system into other operation systems. During the apartheid, the intelligence was used against the activists of the ANC and its alliance. The ANC-led government has changed it to be used for the security of the citizens of this country and the state. The primary function of the intelligence operating system is to enable the taking of well-informed military decisions based on accurate understanding of the situation. Honorable Chairperson, it's fundamentally that respective combat services each have tailored and unique intelligence function to support their contribution to military operations. This implies that each of the combat services should provide for the full spectrum of intelligence functions, namely intelligence collection, processing, and dissemination. For the country to maintain peace and stability within, outside, and inside, it needs to involve of the defense force in a variety of complex operational environments, requiring its intelligence capability to be sensitive to be a more complex world that is prone to rapid changes coupled to a wide range of challenges. As I conclude, Honorable Chairperson, airspace forms part of the country's territoriality that must be secured. In the aviation environment, challenges continue in areas such as important controls at landing facilities, transit management, and in the general security.
Thank you.
Honorable Chairperson, siyaqhubeka sirakela phambili. We continue ritual appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable
Honorable Chair, honorable members, the PAC supported this budget. Yeah. A reason why we support this budget, Honorable Chair, because we know that it affects the more especially those that were in the non-statutory forces. You see, and IAPLA is one of those. PAC is not a product of democracy. We have been there during the heydays. So the work must continue. The work must continue. Our veterans are the ones who helped us to get where we are politically, and we should be providing them to them first rather than letting them get scraps and pieces of what is left behind. There are thousands of veterans who are still receiving services because of corruption and mismanagement of this department. Whereas there are millions of rands being spent by this same department on personnel, trips, entertainment, etc. If the veterans cannot be properly identified and verified, then how does the department hope to fulfill their promise of providing services to them? A 10% increase, Honorable Chair, in their budget is not sufficient at all. The department has allocated about 63% to the empowerment of veterans. Will this be enough to do the actual empowerment? The PAC believes that we should be utilizing the skills that our veterans possess. It is not enough to just say they should participate in the economy through BBBE and land reform initiatives. The skills that our veterans have acquired are invaluable to our country and could be used to build the nation. We should not forget about the ex-political prisoners because we refer to them as political veterans. We must remember that in this country we still have political people that have fought tirelessly for the liberation of mankind, but those people are still languishing in jail. So we need to remind you that when you are putting a budget, Minister, aside then they must also be taken care of. The departments need to be accountable and also to be a monitoring body, more especially for the entities which you embodied. The defense ministry should use the technical skills that these veterans have in the force and not use e-contractors because we are using quite a lot. Why should we use e-contractors when we have people with all these skills? In reducing funding on defense and training for soldiers, I think it's a very short-sighted solution. The Defense Force has a mandate to deliver fully to its constitutional responsibility, which is to defend and protect South Africa and its people. There is so much political manipulation in play, Honorable Chair, in military issues, more than what is required, and in the end, the politicians have no idea of the actual needs of the military issues.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mwaba.
Honorable Chairperson, thank you. Minister, the Deputy Minister, honorable members, the leadership of the Defense Force present here. South Africa's Defense Force is currently rated 4th on the African continent in respect of its military strength and firepower. Our aircraft and naval vessels are very well equipped with the latest technology. And although we have less than 100,000 active frontline personnel, we have the capabilities and manpower for much more. This, together with our vast array of land system technology, makes the South African military a force to be reckoned with. The question, however, is for how long will we be able to maintain this ranking? The Defence Force chairperson is primarily in place to defend the sovereignty of our country from outside aggression. Yet we see how soldiers are now deployed to support the South African police in Operation Fiela against civilians. Whereas the NFP acknowledges that the intention may be noble, Chair, we do feel a deep sense of unease at this move by the state. We are reminded that the apartheid regime, in its futile effort to cling to power and perpetuate political dominance, also deployed the Defence Force against its citizens. Such political moves created a dangerous precedent, and the NFP wishes to caution the government against making the same mistake as apartheid government did. We suggest that the Defence Force be deployed to strengthen border security, as it is one of its stated priorities, and leave the law enforcement to the South African Police Services. The NFP also welcomes the department's intention to prioritize the maintenance of defense capabilities of the force and to develop cybersecurity capability. Together with more effective border security, these priorities of the Defence Force must be supported without reservations, Minister. It remains to be seen, however, how the Defence Force will be able to maintain its defense capabilities when we note the reduction in critical areas such as reduced landward defense funding, flying hours and fuel, as well as training funding in the Air Force, to mention but a few. The increased allocation for AMSCO is another concern for the NFP. Whereas we accept that AMSCO has a pivotal role to play in maintaining and increasing our defense capabilities, we are also concerned that it is not making more of an effort to become financially self-sustaining. In addition, Chair, the NFP also notes the loss of skilled personnel at AMSCO and is unsure whether this can wholly be attributed to matters of remuneration or whether hidden political agendas are being played out in this arena too. Finally, the NFP has serious reservation about the effectiveness of the way the department is handling the matters relating to military veterans. Lack of administrative and financial order is cause for grave concern, not only because it raises issues of accountability and transparency, Chair, but also because the ineptitude of department is impacting negatively on those who have sacrificed much more for the liberation of our country. The NFP urges the department to urgently attend to this plot or this name and do social justice to the military veterans, which they well deserve. Having expressed the above concern, Chairperson, the National Freedom Party supports this budget. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Sir.
Honorable Chair, I dedicate this speech in defense of military veterans. This Department of Military Veterans continues to obstruct and defeat the ends of justice, characterized by poor leadership, poor management, and moving targets. Since 1994, the demobilization, disarmament, and reintegration process has been substantially effective, except for the reintegration. Fundamental challenges have not been addressed for the past 20 years and remains a risk and threat to our democracy. A major disturbing factor is that many a military veteran continues to be marginalized and excluded intentionally. Now, I want to raise the issue of the four strategic risks raised by this very department. The first one is the database. 57,000 military vets are registered. To date, only 40% have been verified, 22,800. The plan is to increase this by 100% to 45,600 by this financial year, and the 4 outer years, it will complete it by 5%, 5%, the balance of 20%, which means by 2020 only, this database will be completed. And this database is a prerequisite for any benefit to a military veteran. Now, what does this mean? Effectively, we are saying that 11,208 people received healthcare benefits, military vets. 845 for the past 2 years received bursaries. Training skills and development, 2,974 received for the past 2 years. Medal parades, 3 for the past 2 years. Who were the beneficiaries when the database remains incomplete, inaccurate, and not finalized? Why? This is very important for us, that in terms of the Military Veterans Act, ipso facto, any soldier that left the active service and it was not dishonorably discharged is a military veteran. And more so, the statutory forces, all the records are there. The CPRs were handed over in 1994 at the inception of this new democracy. Where are all those CPRs? And why do military veterans have to run around for information and certificates when it's all on record? So this is a serious problem within this department, that there is a willful or unwillingness to deal with military veterans. Is it not fair that everybody should be assessed, and after assessment, who then qualifies in terms of the regulations that we have approved as a parliament? Who qualifies? But no, it is done incrementally, and all those who are only verified, amongst them, they only benefit. And it's quite clear that within the article of yesterday, that is even within the ranks of the MK veterans, dissatisfaction about who's receiving benefits. And it's the perception that prevails amongst all other military vets that the MK veterans are being given preference, privilege, and being favored at the expense of all other military veterans. This department needs to disprove that and come clean on this matter. And we can only know that if we know who the actual beneficiaries are. Who are they? What are their names? Which formation did they belong to? Not a single question I've posed to this department, to the ministry, has been answered adequately. I therefore want to conclude and say to this department that your effective communication and strategy plan is totally ineffective and does not give access to military veterans. In conclusion, Honourable Minister and Deputy Minister, that promised that the database will be finished last year, December, which never happened. Demonstrate corporate governance through effective leadership and sound management, and transform this special department into a prestigious institution that will make us proud and moreover our deserving heroes. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Boy.
Good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister and the Deputy Minister and the commanding structure of the Defence Force and the broad body of the Defence Force. Men and women, we've got the capabilities to defend our country. We're here as Parliament and different representatives to be able to talk to you about how responsible we are and to be able to look after your interest. One thing that you should trust, that this institution called Parliament and its parliamentarians do take the work very serious. The divergence of views proves to you that as men and women who are in parliament, we are here to come and talk about you, so be able to look after what we think we should benefit as people are protecting our country. But in the process of debate, sometimes there will be those that mislead us, and we always have to correct them, because it's our job as the ruling party to give guidance to those that we think they are misleading our people. You see, Honorable Dlamini, we welcome you in Parliament, and we will always make it sure that you understand the Constitution, because there's no way we want you to function outside the Constitution, because the Constitution in 200, it clearly stipulates that the primary object of the Defense Force is to defend and protect the Republic, the territorial integrity, and the people of South Africa. That's what it says. That's what the Constitution says. So whatever arguments we're presenting, we didn't find the unconstitutionality. That's what the Parliament has to be able to provide guidance on, is that does the Constitution, is there a violation of the Constitution? And we must tell you that operational Friela is on course. We're not doubting that. It's in the Constitution, and the President has followed all the procedures. And to be able to help you, man, Honorable from Cope, it's not 200, it's 201. The one before, that's where they clearly explain the procedures that is to be followed, and clearly stipulate what Parliament's role is. Now, with us who sit in the Defense Committee, it's not even the Defense Committee, the Joint Defense Committee. That's what the President has done. The President writes to us, we listen to the President, and through that process, we think the process has been quite genuine and quite honestly. And that's how we must feel about the Constitution, and that's how we must protect the needs of the Defense Force. We should not exaggerate what we read in the newspapers, because you don't do threat analysis, you're a member of Parliament. The people who do threat analysis in terms of military is the Defense Force. And they're the only one in this country who can tell me and you what type of a threat we are confronted with. We should never thumbsuck our approach. And one thing that we must always be careful about, which is being provided in the Constitution, is to demoralize soldiers. Never do that. It's a moral duty for us to defend them. And it's on those bases that we are continuously going to plead with you. Read the Constitution when you come, and read the National Development Plan. Because if you don't read those documents, you'll never be able to understand why we think we should be watching and working together with you. Because one of the things that the developmental plan is being able to emphasize time and again is that we should be able to have a capable state, and we should be able to have a developmental state. It's here. I've got the document here. I can provide you a copy if you don't have it, so that we're continuously working together. Because this thing of the ruling party running too fast in vision and in work, it does cost quite a number of people the challenges we're sitting with. You see, it's important. You see, disingenuity must not be allowed. It's important for us to be able to say to each other that in the Defense Committee, we have all gone to the South African Air Force, and we do know from our own responsibilities that it's not the President that coordinates the trips. The Constitution doesn't provide for that. Even the rules doesn't provide for that. And the responsibilities of being able to coordinate, that responsibility lies with the Air Force. And it's not as I will be continuously lecturing mainly on the basis of threat analysis, because it's not the President that sits there and says, President Putin, I want to go home. No, it doesn't. It's the soldiers that make those decisions. Because it's their responsibility. If they don't do that and protect the President, we'll fire them. Because that's the Commander-in-Chief. And that's what the Constitution says. It's not something personal. Honorable President Zuma doesn't wake up in the night and say, I want to go to Russia. There's responsibilities. And within that, what you get, you see the problem with you, you work on gossip. That's your problem. And you'll never be a good, that's why you see when the NDP says that Parliament must get capabilities and be able to produce professional people, I should think they were referring to you. That you should be able to get and understand how the institution functions. Because the more you don't understand how Parliament functions, the more you'll never be able to understand how these committees function. And your attack becomes very personal. And it's not what we appreciate in the Defense Committee. You know from where we seated that as members of the Defense Committee, in the study group, even in the Portfolio Committee, we appreciate your contributions, but we appreciate them as far as you could be able to tell us the truth. But you don't do that, you see? And you are misleading the broad public of defense people for them to believe that the president is here to come and stand in and look, is there an oil leakage there? Can you please find for me another place? It doesn't. He's in a meeting and somebody's taking responsibility. And that is the defense. And you know that's what is happening. You were there. You are the only one you've been one of those that have been consistently complaining about the Air Force airtime. I mean, how much time do they have? You're the one who says must increase their flying times. Now, the disingenuity is when you forget those things, when you see your other members. In the committee, you have expressed this thing. This afternoon, I've shown you the reports. Those reports are reflective of the work that we are doing together with you in the Portfolio Committee. But we do understand and we do struggle when it comes to public that we must be very impressive. But please, remain within the truth of what we are discussing in the Defense Committee. You don't know anything, keep quiet. You are failing to be able to coordinate the police. Do your work there. So that at the end of the day, that's where we are with you. We're working together, drink more water, so that you are able to do that work in a very genuine way. Yes, you must also behave. But at the end of the day, honorable members, the ministry and the department has done a very stunning job. That's where we are standing today. The responsibility of the Defense Force. That's why we are saying that Operation Fiela, we understand. Because one thing that you find that is very jokingly, and which I've observed, that at no stage when you go into a house, it's the first time, the Defense Force stands aside. It doesn't do anything. It looks at the police. And then operationally, when the police are there, the first people who goes to the door is the police. And there's no way when you arrive inside the house, you say, what type of a nationality are you? Then they start acting. There's nothing like that. It's not in the law. They get there because they've been told, they've identified through the threat analysis that there's crime committed here. And we must be able to respond to that. So that at the end of the day, when they respond to crime, those that are feeling the pinch, those that are supporting criminals will shout like that. But they do know that their support mechanism of how they are running behind criminals and trying to make sure that criminals destabilize the country, that's the type of behavior you get. But with us who are concerned about the country and the destabilization, with the Defense Force members, with the police, there's very good. We are very consistent in protecting our country. We are very good in upholding the constitution of our country. We should be able to say, Honorable Minister, that they have done one of the most stunning things. We should welcome the member that has been in AMSCO. You promised us, leave him in it. You promised us that you'll be able to appoint the AMSCO board. You have appointed a businessman in AMSCO.
Please conclude.
And in conclusion, what we know from that particular matter is that whatever we put together for the defense review will be achievable. Thank you.
Colleagues, let me request our invited guests, don't participate in the debate. Don't participate in the debate. Enjoy it, view it, but don't participate on it. Honorable Minister replies.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable members, let me start by thanking all the members who participated in this debate. This was a very successful debate. I think of the parties, only one party did not support our budget vote. I think there is recognition that there is work that is being done by the South African National Defence Force. But not only that, I appreciate the fact that almost all parties are concerned about the fact that the defense review process has not been completed. I fully agree with you, General, that we should come and present the implementation plan of the defense review. We are very ready. Please, there is no executive authority that can impose herself or himself on the portfolio committee. Members of the portfolio committee, joint standing committee on defense, please call us to appear before the portfolio committee so that we can present this information, because the information is available. I do worry sometimes because you gain an impression that people think that you don't want to appear before the committee when you've not been invited and told exactly what to come and present before the committee. The second issue is, Honorable next to Honorable Kyla, next to Honorable James Wilmot. No. Honorable Kola. Honorable Kola.
May I assist the minister, sir? I'm Honorable Kola Barnard.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Honorable Kola Barnard, that's the name I was looking for.
And could may I?
Yes.
Assist the minister, I'm Honorable Wilmot James.
Honorable,
Thank you.
Honorable Wilmot James, thank you very much. Can I just say that you are delaying me now? Don't sidetrack me. Honorable Kola Barnard, I'm amazed by the amount of talking and screaming you've been doing in that corner, because you are not even a member of that committee. You are talking about troops, you are screaming about the presence of troops inside. In fact, we actually ran a campaign in the 80s that actually threw you out of the townships because you were actually maiming our people. We are the ones who taught you that it is not the mandate of the defense force to do policing work.
Point of order, the minister has just accused me personally. The minister has just accused me personally.
No.
I'm happy to wait. I'm happy to wait.
Hold on.
Wait till you get order.
Honorable members, we want to hear the honorable member. Honorable members, the minister is replying as closing the debate. Honorable Mabe. And also it's advisable, though, that when a member stand up, cite the rule. Because otherwise all of us are going to stand up the way we want to stand up. Cite which rule are you using to stand up. And then if you don't have that... It's a point of order, sir. No.
I'm standing on a point of order. I have been accused by the minister of slaughtering people. I would ask you to review the Hansard, and I would ask for a withdrawal immediately, because we cannot do it after this debate. It's not allowed. So I would ask that I have an apology and a withdrawal for the vile comments made about me.
The South African Defense Force of the past, in whatever capacity you may have served.
Honorable Minister.
If you would make a ruling, sir.
I'm not going to withdraw.
No. We are going to come back to it.
No chair. I can't sit on the floor.
And Honorable Carter.
Honourable Chairperson, I was hoping that we would ask for a withdrawal. On Thursday last week, I was asked to leave the House for casting aspersions. And it's exactly the same what has happened now. And therefore, please ask the Honourable Minister to withdraw, and you can still go to your Hansard. Thank you.
The Minister really is preferable, though, not to disturb the Minister when he's concluding the debate. No. Just hold on a little bit, because I requested you to cite the rule. You didn't cite the rule. No.
Point of order that I have been maligned by the minister in this house. I'm asking for her to withdraw and apologize.
Honorable Kola Barnard, there are 1,700 rules. Every rule has a number. And then, please, you can say number 10, but we must miss.
I do not know the number, but if it is
No,
stated that
that is
I
the
was
main-
slaughtering people,
No.
then I will have a withdrawal. I will take it to the
No,
speaker.
no.
You
No, I'm
may
trying-
not do this to
Honourable-
me, sir. You may not
No.
say, I must give you the number of
No.
a rule or regulation.
no, no.
I know when
Honourable
I have been
Chairperson,
Honourable
grossly
Paula
slandered
Panat.
in this house.
Honorable member, I'm trying my level best to assist you. I'm assisting you. And, no, just hold on a little bit. Let us hear what you are saying. I made this point earlier on that I always request members to cite a rule because everyone will stand up without citing a rule to make it difficult for presiding officers to take a decision. Honorable Dlagute.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I just wanted to say that as much as you have ruled that you are going to listen to the Hansard, the minister, her response is based on what the honorable member said. So it's not like the minister is starting something new. The honorable member said something that the minister had and she's responding to that.
Well,
If they cannot take the punches that they are throwing at us, when we give them back to them.
I would like to know what number this rule is. And I was
Thank
accused
you.
of slaughtering people in the townships,
Thank you.
personally, by that minister. I don't need a number. I want a withdrawal and an apology.
No.
Chairperson.
Honorable members.
Chairperson.
No.
Chairperson.
Honorable members, just
Hello.
hold on a little bit.
Chairperson.
We are delaying the sitting unnecessarily.
Chairperson.
Yes, ma'am.
May I address you? Chairperson, you asked the Honourable Kola Barnard to cite a rule, right? But then when the Honourable Deputy Chief Whip of the ANC stood up, you didn't ask her to cite a rule. Can we have some consistency in this House, please? Sorry?
Just hold on, honorable members.
Was it only for this side of
But
the House?
also, you are doing exactly what they have done wrongly.
Which is
Because I requested everyone from the beginning to do so. Even yourself, you are doing exactly that. The Honorable Dlagute was wrong, yourself, you are wrong. Honorable Minister, you are concluding. The Honorable Member requested us that would come back and make a ruling in that. Please, Honorable Members, it's always advisable to use parliamentary language in a debate like this because it makes it easy for us to participate and every member shouldn't be offended by language. But just stick to the parliamentary language. The best thing to do is to do that. You won't miss any point if you stick to a parliamentary language. Let us do that.
I beg your pardon. Have you asked the minister to withdraw and apologize to me for saying that I personally slaughtered people in the townships?
No.
That is what she said.
Honorable Minister. I thought that, Honorable Barnard, you requested the presiding officer to listen to the Hansard and come back and give you a ruling on that.
With all due respect, I think you well know that withdrawals from EPCs cannot be done after we rise. The apology must come here, the retraction must be here and now.
Honorable Minister. We have already taken 10 minutes, really. Honorable Minister, did you say that?
Honorable Chairperson, I want to make a request that you go and study the Hansard and come back and make a ruling on the matter. If I did say, then you will tell me to withdraw and I will withdraw. But for now, go and study the Hansard and hear what I said.
Honorable Minister, proceed.
Thank you very much.
Chairperson, on a point of order, you've asked the minister whether or not she said those words. The minister can answer here and now. If she had any dignity, and if she was honest, she would tell the House she did say those words, and she would withdraw. You've just asked the minister.
Chairperson, allow me to
I'm
finish.
still talking, Minister.
Allow me to conclude.
How can the minister give you an instruction?
Honorable.
No, who's
Honorable.
in charge here, yourself or the minister?
Honorable Minister, the point that I was asking you, did you say those words or not?
No. Exactly. I know exactly what I said. And if you go to the Hansard, you will find it. If the meaning of what I said is what you are interpreting it to be, so be it. Now, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair, thank you very much for the support for the defense review. And I also want to
Honorable members, let us not make noise. Honorable
Honorable members, thank you very much. I'm sorry that my debate ended on a dramatic note, but it was indeed a very good debate, very constructive indeed, and I am very, very happy that we are where we are today. Somebody mentioned that the Defense Force actually conducts raids in houses, and there is no truth to this matter. In fact, all of us know that when the police, this Operation Fiela, the Defense Force is simply there in support of the police. And what the people who have been conducting the raids are in fact the police. You've not seen a member of the Defense Force inside a building and conducting raids. So let's be factual in the things which we raise. Lastly, it is true, honorable members, that there are challenges of rolling out of services for our military veterans. But it is actually not true to suggest that it is only MKMVA members who are benefiting from these services, particularly because even the paper which you had, Honorable Member, Honorable Esau, actually that's an MKMVA military veteran complaining about the rolling out of services. Only this weekend, we buried a military veteran called Comrade Fish. That man died living in a shack. It is embarrassing, and it is for that reason, in fact, that we have decided that we want to have a turnaround team which will move into the Department of Military Veterans and try to assist the management in military veterans to sort out some of the challenges. So, the problem of services is a problem with all the veterans. The matter of the database, it is true, honorable members, that the database which we have may not necessarily be as credible as we would wish it to be. And it is for that reason that I want to announce that I've now appointed an appeals board to look at issues in the DMV, an appeals board which will be chaired by Mr. Mavuso Msimang. Part of that team will be Advocate Fedzanani, Nomsam Kwanazi, Advocate Murolo, and F. Hatzenberg. Those are the people who will constitute this appeals board precisely because we need to deal with the issues of the credibility or not of this database which we have. Lastly, I'm glad that the Honorable General has raised the matter of the Defense Force Service Commission. Not only the matter of powers. I am sure when you sit there, you people worry, are concerned about the fact that there are salary recommendations which you have made. But standing here, thank you, Chair, standing here as Minister of Defense, you may not take that, even though the law says Minister takes the decision. But on matters of the budget,
On matters of money, I have absolutely no say. What we are doing is to raise the matter in a mandate committee so that the mandate committee can give us support so that we go to the Mincom part and get the money which we need. Truth of the matter, all of you know this, that we have a huge backlog, a big problem of lack of financial resources in the Defence Force. I thank you all, honorable members.
Honourable members, you are reminded that the debate on the Office of the Chief Justice and the Judicial Administration, Art and Culture budget vote will take place at 16:40 in the National Assembly Chamber and Old Assembly Chamber, respectively. That concludes the debate and the business of the standard. The committee will now rise. Thank you very much.